Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Being Your Own CEO Success Circle. This is intended as a support to solopreneurs, and we've been getting together now close to 5 years. Would you believe that? So this morning, we're going to be talking about trust. But first, I think it would make sense for us to get underway with some introductions. Now, there's really only four of us here this morning, and that may be due to the fact that there are some people whose Zoom is not working as well as it might, because yesterday apparently Zoom was so overused by people who were staying home to work that they had some difficulties. So that may well be part of the reason for today as well. However, let us carry on. So I will start at the beginning of the alphabet this morning. So David, you are first, and David is in Illinois, and he creates affordable websites for small business. So welcome
Um,
here.
Thank you. We have streaming through all the way through to the website. No
Perfect.
problem whatsoever.
Perfect. Oh,
We will
that's
be
wonderful.
checking. Yes.
And so next in line is Fred Jones. He's here in British Columbia. Well, he's in Victoria, but he calls it out Langford, which is a suburb of Victoria. We have all kinds of little jokes in this part of the world about which what is a suburb of what. So, Fred facilitates leadership and community building for youth. So, welcome here, Fred. And then we have Nathan, who is in Mexico, and he works as a copywriter, focusing on salesmanship in print. So, welcome, Nathan. And last but not least is myself, Loweland Fuglsang, and I've been I've been playing around with the title of Elder Website Geek. I'm hoping that I can help people create an online business. Those that are anticipating retirement or who are in retirement. The other thing I'm hoping to do is help some people. We just got announced that my 200 member choir is not going to be meeting any for the next while because of recent. We're not going to talk about that, but the choir is going to be conducted using Zoom. So there are going to be a lot of people in the choir who have no idea how to get themselves set up with Zoom. So I've put myself out there as a volunteer to help people figure out how to do that. So that's all of us, and I want to just recognize that there may be some other people coming in shortly. Um, but if they do, they won't get an introduction. so, um, so, just by way of kind of a little bit of context, I guess, when we were in the green room after a show a few weeks ago, we started talking about, setting up. What are all the things that we would do, if there were an emergency? and this was kind of before all the recent things have happened. We were back in February trying to determine where, were our topics for the month of March. And so we started saying, well, what would happen if there were a big emergency and or one of us got sick. I think it was Alana who said it suddenly occurred to her that her clients in the States, if she got sick, how would she connect with them, and what would she realize that she didn't have anything in place. So as we began to discuss that, we thought it might, and we will, sort of move on to that topic next week. But it came up that all of this really depends on a level of trust, and that just not just emergency planning that is depends on trust, but our business, our businesses moving forward also depends on a level of trust. So we began to sort of say, well, how does one give trust, and how does one receive trust? And that was when Fred said, well, he'd written an article for his youth about trust. And so then we started thinking that maybe it would be a good idea to I thought it would be a great idea to invite Fred to lead a discussion on just what is trust and how does it work, and so forth. So that's where we're going to go this morning. So have among your youth clients, was there any reaction to that really great blog that you put out about trust?
Lowland, I did get a bit of feedback,
Mm-hmm.
but I have so many blog posts. I've got like 100 and something of them. So, and it was a while ago. I can't remember specifically
Uh-huh.
if anybody said, "Oh, that's a great article," or "I really enjoy it," or resonated with them. I'm
Uh-huh.
hoping there is. It is a very important aspect of any relationship, business or personal
Mm-hmm.
relationship.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, the word in the whole marketing world, the word gets thrown around a lot. But it occurred to me that, do we really understand what trust is all about? What does it take? What are the elements of trust? When I think of, do I trust so and so or do I not trust? What comes into play there? And it seems to me that there are numerous things that come into play. One of them being our emotions. I think, whether we have trust in somebody is really, and it may also be connected to our kind of survival mode. It's kind of an animal thing, isn't it?
Oh, very much. I mean, within a few seconds, we uh, looked at someone and we've decided,
Mm-hmm.
how close can we get? Can we trust them?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, within 10 seconds. And that is, our, as you say, the animal mode or
Uh-huh.
survival. So yes, it stems right down to that. It's
Mm-hmm.
trust. And then it goes a lot further, obviously, but
Mm-hmm.
because sometimes you look at someone, you don't think you'll trust them. And then you find out, yes. So it
Mm-hmm.
takes a while. In fact, it takes a long time often to build trust.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I do have some slides and so on that I
Oh,
can share.
perfect. Absolutely perfect.
So if you wish, I can
Yeah.
share my screen and go
Um,
and say what
just
I cover is what is trust and why it's important and
Oh, perfect.
how. Some of the
Absolutely
things.
wonderful.
And that
I
really is on my blog post, based from my blog.
Yeah. So, but just to, as you're getting that ready, I just wanted to recognize Vivek, who has just arrived from the UK. So, yeah. So go ahead, Fred.
Okay, I'll
I
share my.
have you. I have you up on the screen. Yeah. So.
Okay, I'll share my screen, and we'll get the slideshow going here, I hope. All right. What is trust? This is my slide. Are you seeing this slide? Just to make sure that
Yes, I
you are.
am. Yes.
Okay.
Oh
All
my
right.
goodness, where did you find that?
Well, I thought it was appropriate because most of us work online,
Yes.
and how do we build trust?
Mm-hmm.
And this is an example of what we're trying to do online. And
Mm-hmm.
I believe we have done that with the Success Circle, Lowell. And I I know I've met some wonderful people
Mm-hmm.
through this, and it's all online in most cases, other than yourself and well, some Paul, and then I did meet Roland in California
Mm-hmm.
before he passed away,
Yeah.
which was wonderful. So what I'd like to cover, and what I did cover in the blog post, was what is trust, why it's important, and how we structure it. So those are the main topics that I talked about. And trust is, if you look at a dictionary definition, you have confidence, faith, or hope in someone or something. It could be a business, or if you think when you order things online, there's a lot of trust. You give them your money and you trust it's going to arrive. So that's having confidence, faith, or hope in something or something. And why it's important? Well, as I briefly said earlier, it's the basis of all relationships.
Mm.
If you don't have trust personally or with business or with anyone you're dealing with, there's no relationship. And then because there's no relationship, you're not able to, inspire people, have any influence, or create change. And I believe anyone who's a coach, or we're marketing a product, what are we doing? We're trying to ensure that we're making positive change in a person's life. Like Nathan is a copywriter. And as a copywriter, he's trying to help people market and sell their products online. And Dave is doing websites for people, and he's making change in their lives. So in all cases, everyone here, and Lowell Ann's a coach, you're helping people. And if you cannot build trust, you'll never be able to make that change. So it's key. And of course, in personal relationships, it's important. So now there's many elements, enormous amount. I mean, you can go in and say, what's important to develop trust? And you can get dozens and dozens of, but there's four that I'd just like to cover that cover a lot of the elements. And it's honesty, then communication, reliability, and integrity. And those were over what I had in the blog post.
May I add one?
Yes.
For me, loyalty is a really important aspect of trust as well.
Yes.
Mm.
Okay. And you'll see some of those are perhaps covered in here. I think loyalty is mentioned.
Oh, maybe. Okay.
All right. Well, honesty, I think most of us understand what honesty is. You're not being deceitful. You're not telling lies, which unfortunately some people do.
Mm-hmm.
You're being transparent. You're being very open. And especially in today's world, people really demand transparency. And if you don't know something, or there's something that isn't true, or you will tell them. You have to be transparent, and obviously not have any deception, and obviously be truthful.
Mm-hmm.
And that is so important. And as soon as people find that you're not honest, well, there's no relationship. And here is communication, and you'll see being empathetic with others, listen, and loyal. Mm-hmm. There's the word that you mentioned for loyalty, and faithful. Mm. So empathy is a very challenging, and we don't listen enough often. And we don't understand what people, but that, I think Nathan would probably comment on that. If you don't understand what the problems are that people need, you're not able to write copyright. The product will not help them. It won't resonate with them.
Well, there's understanding the audience for sure, but when you're building a site, and an essential aspect of site is developing a site is creating trust. So among other things, you have social proof, you have a lot of testimonials, you have case studies. One of the things that I learned about is something called borrowed credibility. It's like this one guy that I'm working with out of Australia, working on a major sales page project. One of the things I asked him is like, look, man, I know you're involved with NLP associations. I found that you're a member of this. What we really need that's going to help this sales page is the logo for that site and a mention in the copy that not only are you um, a member of this organization, not only is your company uh, also involved, but you're also a board member. And all of that needs to go into the sales letter because it's establishing proof, it's establishing credibility. Like, for example, there's a guy, I looked at a sales letter years ago to do with joint ventures. And there was a guy who claimed that he made $845,000 with the knowledge that he learned. And his name was listed and where he lived, which just happened to be Abbotsford. I looked him up on the phone book. I called him and I blew his socks off. He said, "You're the first guy who's ever contacted me." I said, "Expect more." I said, "But what I really want to know is, was this true? Did you actually do this?" And he said, "Yes." So when you put stuff like that on a site, like one of the things I've been saying to my colleague, Rick, the most powerful testimonials you can get are video and testimonials where they list the person's name and where they're from.
Mm.
Because there are going to be people, and a website if you can get it, but with privacy issues, a lot of people might not want to reveal that. But the point of it is if you're wanting to build trust, you're wanting to build that rapport with people, they're going to check it out. I do, and I have many times with sales letters. Is this true?
Yeah.
And
No, I agree with you, Nathan. And in
Yeah.
your world of copywriting, it's very key that this is written communication,
Yep.
verbal communication, visual communication. All of this is important. So
Yep.
And you have to show and prove that you are.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like in as many different ways as you can, and it's not always easy to prove something.
Yeah, and it takes time.
Yeah,
it doesn't happen overnight.
Like one thing that happened with another sales letter years ago, which was a pivotal point in my career as a writer, was where there were two things in the copy. One of them was a statement, "You've been lied to and it's costing you a fortune." That got my attention. But the other thing that really worked for me and ultimately led me to buy the product is that the mentor for the product had his name on the site, his photograph, and his phone number. And I called him several times. And that's what led me to buying the product, and it led me to the best success of my writing career.
Well, that's like when I was a recruiter many years ago, recruiting people for jobs. Same sort of thing. You always check references, and you did it in a very careful way. So it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Is this person going to be capable of doing this job? Really? Because they can
Absolutely,
tell you
yeah.
all sorts of things. So it's the same sort of
Yeah.
thing. If I can get on to the next topic, and we can discuss at the end, reliability as well. I mean, you can say you keep your promises. If you don't keep your promises, you've lost trust. And being reliable and consistent and with your performance, that's important as well. And then integrity. You're, again, being consistent. And that's why, even if you say the success circles have been going for 5 years, this is regular. The consistency of this builds trust as well. We get to know each other. So with your actions, your words, you do the right things, not the wrong things when you're faced with something. And in today's world right now, what's going on around the world, it's very important that we all do the right things, because there will be some people who try and do silly things. And I think that's it with strong moral values. Without that, you cannot build trust. And so those were the 4 main things. If I can go, maybe I can go back just to say, it is honesty, communication, reliability, and integrity. Okay. Now, again, this sign shows trust, but we often have fear. So we all have to, and as someone once said, and it's an unknown quote. I tried to see who said it. I don't trust words. I trust actions. Anybody can say, oh, I did this, or as Nathan said, oh, I made all this money. Really? Did you? You test it, you check it, you verify it. And without trust, there's no value, and without value, there's no sales, or you're not going to have any changes. So I put that in mainly because I say there's no change or no sales. I put that because we're often talking about solopreneurs here. So that's what we're trying to do. And trust is key to being successful. So I have a story that I like to end on about trust. This fellow was flying on an airplane, and of course the seatbelt sign comes on saying, from the pilot saying, we're gonna face some very tough weather. We're going through some storms. And it was really terrible. No, they didn't even manage to serve the food on this particular flight because it was really bad. And everybody was, obviously you've heard some horror stories about some of these flights. Well, this particular flight was very bad. And the man indicated he saw this young girl. She was sitting near him, but she didn't seem to be worried at all. She was just calmly reading her book. And you would think that a young person would be more frightened than an older person. But this young girl wasn't frightened at all. And when they landed finally, after this horrendous flight, he asked the young girl, he said, I noticed that you didn't seem to be frightened at all. I mean, why? Everybody else was sort of freaking out, so to speak. And she said, sir, my dad is the pilot, and he's taking me home.
Wow. Yeah.
So there's a sign of trust. She trusted her father, knowing he's a pilot, and he's going to get her home safely. So that's why she wasn't freaking out. Now there's a great example. So just in summary, trust. If you don't have trust, an untrustworthy person will find it a challenge to be successful. And trust takes years to build, seconds to break, and forever to repair. So that's my sort of synopsis of what I had written for the young people. What is trust? Why it's important to build relationships, and how. I don't know if there's any questions, but I'll stop sharing my screen.
I love that last sentence that you did. That is just, it says it all, doesn't it?
Yeah. So,
wow.
We've been joined by Jay and Heidi.
Oh, I given my screen, I cannot see them just yet.
And Alana.
Oh,
okay.
Alana.
So, well, welcome everybody. We are exploring the whole concept of trust. I gather that you would have gathered that by now. One of the things that jumped out for me in that presentation was, and I guess when you were talking about copywriting and so forth, I know, for example, if I go to a website and I don't see the person's face, I don't see their address, where they are, and how to get in touch with them, and all of that, I do not have the level of trust that is needed for me to do the kind of business that person might be promoting. I wonder what are the things that show up in your worlds that tell you there should be or there shouldn't be trust. Anybody want to kind of talk about that?
I would say building trust or starting to trust someone. Earlier, sometime back, I said we need 3, but now I'm going to say 4.
Oh, okay.
Makes the acronym a bit more easy to remember. Acronym is MILK.
Right.
Meet, interest, Like, no,
and no. Meet, interest, like, and no. Okay.
yeah,
So those are the things that are required. And
those are the first few steps.
so
So
the
the
like.
meeting physically is actually we as humans we read the body language without really I mean thinking about it. We don't, okay, let me understand this body language. No, we don't do that. We
This
just do it.
this is that's the animal part of us.
Yes. But then since I mean with the coronavirus and so on and so forth, even without that, meeting someone across the pond, for example, all of you,
Yeah, right.
in fact, all of you are across the pond for me, including Alana, in fact. There is a little channel,
A
but
smaller
still,
pond there.
it wouldn't be possible. So this video, this makes a great substitute for that. You can read someone's body language. You can so that first step is easier with the video. So rest is of course.
It's but some things are kind of immediate. I mean the meat or the interest, I guess that's kind of an immediate thing, but some parts of that take longer, don't they? Yeah.
Yes, they do.
Interesting.
I see Heidi has joined us as well. Good to
Yes.
see you, Heidi.
Heidi. We all commiserate with you, knowing that you're stuck at home and can't go out.
Yeah, but it will take you there too in a few moments. So don't commiserate me. Think about do shopping and whatever what you need to have now. So you can really stay at home.
Yeah, but we did decide before we went live that we were not going to visit that topic because we've all heard so much of it that
Yeah.
we need a break. So, but I did want to welcome you. I haven't seen you for a while, so it's nice to have you here.
Yeah, I
And
was remembering that with the time change it was now, and I just came back from a walk because I'm fortunate enough to be in the countryside, so I can walk around, and I'm not closed in an apartment. And so I thought, oh yeah, I could join you now.
right on. Yes, the time has changed. So
Literally.
yes, yes. I too was out for a walk this morning. We walked along Dallas Road at 6:30 this morning. No, 7. I mean, we went for coffee first and then went walk. It's a trail that goes along the beach here. Yeah. So yes, if you're not living in a crowded downtown place, you can get out for a walk. Yeah. So, Alana, you just got home from work. You did?
No, I'm actually temporarily laid off at the Mo.
Right.
It was originally supposed to be 2 weeks, and now it's indefinite. I actually just came from there. We took a walk. We went walking too. There's 2 walks where I work, so we all went out there and we took a walk and stopped and had some coffee, and then we came home. But yeah, no, I'm going to be off for the next little while. So.
As are most of us, yeah.
Yeah.
So, what does it take for you, or what do you notice about trust? I mean, I guess maybe it might be useful to go the other way. So when you don't trust, when you notice that trust is not there, what is it that makes that happen?
Well, speaking from the trust point of view, when I'm looking at websites, I'm looking for something that I can resonate with. So, and that's where this trust starts for me. So if I'm reading an article and there's some sort of a connection that I can say, oh yeah, I agree with that, or that sounds right to me, then that's the beginning of the trust factor.
Okay.
I happen to be reading something that a friend of mine posted on the keto diet or something. And, you know, I had tried that many years ago, so I knew a little bit about it. And everything that I read about this, she was basically saying it's a fantastic article. I read it and I thought, this is crap. This woman, whoever she is, didn't do her research, because this is all crap to me. But I didn't want to say it, of course. But yeah, it was like when you know something to be true, I think you kind of listen to your gut, you know?
So that's interesting. You listen to your gut. You know, when you said that, when it brought up a story for me when I worked as in the employment world for government. As employment counselors, our job was to work with the individual and sometimes refer them to government-funded training, etc., etc. And I remember initially as an employment counselor, I would, if I couldn't find a sort of what I thought was a legal reason to refuse somebody, I felt as though I shouldn't refuse them. Even though in my gut I knew. And as time went on, I learned to trust my gut. And as I went on to become the supervisor of other employment counselors who were doing the same thing, that was one of the things I used to instruct them. Trust your gut, because it's almost always going to be right. Yeah. So, and that's that.
I agree. Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I know sometimes it's the problem with listening to your gut is that it's not scientific. There's no science behind it. It's basically, you know, a sense that you get, and really that's all we ever really have, right?
It's true. And so it as we've been saying a little bit, it kind of goes back to that survival part of our brains. That I mean, if we don't trust a certain situation, we just kind of know it, and
if I may say something just now, just finish your.
Yeah, go ahead.
As a recruiter for many years, I ran my own business, and I was only paid if I had successful people.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I found out though is sometimes you get your initial impression of someone,
mm-hmm.
and you're saying no, but if you dig deeper,
mm-hmm.
you miss some good people that way. So be careful of just only using your gut and saying, okay, this person isn't the right employee, just keeping in that, because you can miss some gems. But you have to put on the table your initial impression and say, okay, let me prove or disprove. Am I right or wrong about this person? And dig deeper, because you may be right, yes, but you may also be wrong.
Yeah.
And you could miss some great opportunities in life if your initial, so be careful of only relying on your initial gut feeling.
Yeah. So first impression, but in the situation that I mentioned, we had dug deeper, and you still maybe couldn't find what looked like a rational reason to turn that person down, yet you knew in your gut. And I learned that my gut was always right, but it wasn't based on kind of just an initial impression. It was based on much more than that. Yeah, go ahead, Nathan.
I was just going to relate his stories along the lines of what Fred was talking about. Years ago, I met a flight instructor in a flying school, and I had to admit I didn't like the guy. At one night, I was assigned to train with him, and we were up in this aircraft doing what they call circuits, which is basically you take off, you fly the pattern, you come in and land, and then you take off again. And that night we suffered a complete electrical failure. We lost everything. Now, the wonderful thing about flying in an aircraft with which has magnetos is the magnetos keep the engine running. Sort of like your generator on a car keeping the spark plugs going. But in this case, the magnetos are self-sufficient, thank God, otherwise we would have lost the engine. But when we had that emergency, my instructor asked me, hey, do you have a flashlight? And as luck would have it, I did, because of the pre-flight, which is this cheap little flashlight that I bought from my dad's store years ago. And what happened was he took the flashlight, he shined it on the airspeed indicator so I could see how fast we were going. And then we did an emergency landing at the airport and shut everything down. After that, I never had an issue with that guy again, because the dynamics completely changed. We were forced into an emergency situation where we had to work together as a team. And after that, all of my problems with him vanished. Never had an issue with him again. Never flew with him again either, which was kind of funny. But there were no problems with him ever again.
So, yeah. So digging, in a sense, that's what you did. It was a deeper situation rather than just
well, it was a no choice situation.
Yeah.
We had to work together. It happened with another pilot that I didn't know well, and again, a similar thing where we lost all the electrical power, and we just worked together as a seamless team. We were both very well trained in flying. We knew exactly what to do, and we worked together as if we had always been together. And we did everything by the book. We did it exactly right, and made an emergency landing, and everything was fine. So, yeah, there are extenuating circumstances to some things, but there was another situation where I really screwed up, where I encountered a potential landlord in Mexico. And I remember thinking, watching the guy, that he reminded me of one of my uncles, who I really didn't like all that much. And I made the mistake of not following my intuition there. And he turned out to be one of the worst jerks I've ever encountered in my life as a landlord. He stole our damage deposit. He was threatening me and my girlfriend. At one point, he was chasing me with 3 lawyers trying to get me to cave into what he wanted. It was just a real nightmare. I finally got rid of him, but it took a year and a half. And even a year and a half later, he filed a rip-off report against me as a way of trying to drag me back into the fight. I mean, he was a real jerk. Wow. But I just ignored him and he went away.
Wow.
Yeah.
Boy. So, there are times when we have to work with people, whether we trust them or not, I guess. But again, we would still pay attention to that gut feeling so that you're kind of careful. You're going to be more careful if you don't trust that person.
Yeah, if I'd paid attention, the problem wouldn't have happened. When I told my girlfriend about it later, she said, why didn't you tell me? We never would have rented from him.
Right.
So that was my mistake.
Yeah. So that is kind of the situation that I was saying. If I didn't trust my gut, and put somebody into training, and the money got spent and they bombed out, the money was wasted, and that was not a good thing. So yeah, so we have to we do have to learn to trust our own inner feelings or reactions. Yeah. Anybody else have some ideas about what things come up for them that sort of make them question whether trust is
I think when you were talking about trusting the gut and all that, I was thinking, this is probably a gender divide, maybe. Men are supposed to be more brain thinkers, whereas women are more, they get feelings, they think through their entire body. So gut is of course part of it. So I think that's where the male female differences come into play, and sometimes it's good, sometimes it is not. So
Now, I would disagree with you, Vivek, because I believe that people, regardless of their gender, have a tendency to be right-brained or left-brained. Some people lean one way too far, and some people lean the other way too far. But if we're able to use both left and right brains equally, we're going to be fine. I don't.
no,
I
but
mean, I've met lots of men who are very right brained,
mm,
and I've met
but
lots of
what I
women who
was
are very left brained. So I'm sorry, you can't go there. I won't let you.
but what I was saying was think with the whole body, not
Yes,
just the brain.
yes.
That was what I was saying.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we need to do is think with both sides. Okay, Alana.
You knew I had to jump in, right?
Yeah.
Okay, here's my theory on all that. Women call it thinking with their feelings, but it's the same thing that men do. Men just, it's more of a physical thing with men. That's the way I look at it. Men, it's, to me, with men, it's more physical, and they make snap decisions. That doesn't mean they didn't feel it. They're just not calling it a feeling. Do you know what I mean? That's the way I look at it. I think we're all equal there.
Yeah.
They are afraid to call it a feeling. They,
Yeah,
they
exactly.
don't want to be seen as feeling people. They want to be all macho and ooh.
It's just what you're calling it. You know, women call it feelings, men call it something else. Men call it, okay, I think this, I think that. You know, they call it, I think this, but it's probably a feeling. They're just not calling it that.
Yeah.
And we're kind of, we're moving into some dangerous territory here, I feel.
Well, but it comes up to how and who we trust.
Mm.
It is involved. There's no question.
Yeah, I gotta go hunt and share my feelings about it. So
Don't forget your spear, Jay.
Right.
yes, that's right. No,
That's what
bare
I was-
hands. What are you talking? Who needs a spear? I just look at them just like I do that with goats, right?
Yeah. Don't forget your big club.
Yeah. No, it's bare hands. I just look at them and they just.
Yeah.
I do see a big club behind you, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
Actually, yeah, that's true.
So let's get into business a little bit in terms of and as we are thinking about websites that we visit and articles and so forth. What promotes the trust level? I mean, Nathan referred to social proof, but I have to admit that when I see all those icons along the bottom of something, it causes me to immediately question. Oh, it's really easy to go and get all those icons and stick them on the bottom of your website in the effort of trying to prove social proof. But if there's too much of that, it causes me to question it. So I'm wondering about how other people react.
Actually, there's some valid points that you make about that, because one of the things that I learned in this process of book writing is a lot of people are gaming the systems on Amazon as a case in point in order to get bestseller status. And I was told by a couple of people how I could go onto Fiverr, find some people who would do the work for me, and wind up with these stickers as seen with whatever, as well as gaming the Amazon system to become a bestseller. It's stuff I stayed away from like the plague, but it also gave me a really healthy skepticism of anybody who claims to be a best-selling author. Now, some people I know are legit. A friend of mine, as an example, who's an author, I know he's legit, so I don't have to worry if he's going to claim this because I know it's for real. But with a lot of these other people, I know it's not for real. And I know that it's been gamed. And so when I see a lot of this stuff now, when we use the word trust, I don't trust it. No way. The other thing is on sites like TripAdvisor, as a traveler, one of the things that I've seen is that a lot of people are gaming the system to do with travel reviews. Case in point was a place on the Baja, 2 hotels, both rated 5 stars. When I got there, both of them stank to high heaven of cigarette smoke. So that was obviously a lie. Another time I went to another town, same thing. 5 star reviews. I get to the hotel and it was so, but it stank of mothballs. And then I went to the hotel just down the street from it. There was a little bit less in the reviews and it was okay. So this trust thing, I mean, some of it just has to do with doing your homework. And like if you're looking at sites that go with reviews, some of the advice I got was ignore all the 5 star reviews, ignore all the 1 star reviews, look at the stuff in the middle, and you're more likely to find the truth.
So, speaking about reviews, I'm sure Jay will have a response for that.
I'm sure he will. But there's one other thing I want to mention about reviews. As part of being a freelance writer, I wrote hundreds of reviews. And one of the things that I discovered as a reviewer is I would write a review of something, but there were a lot of people out there who, like, it didn't used to be like this, but it changed when people started becoming affiliates for products. And a lot of these affiliates would write only about the positive stuff in order to sell whatever it is that they were offering, but the reviews were not truthful. And I'm sure Jay would have a lot to say about that himself. So I've seen Jay's reviews on many things, and they state the truth, not the crap, or not what they want you to see or hear. But it's hard to find out who's telling the truth and who's trying to just get your bucks.
Aha. Jay,
Yeah.
do you feel like chiming in?
Come on, man, we're awaiting you.
I can have the conch now.
Yes, you
Oh,
can
yeah.
have the conch.
Here you go.
So yeah, just some great points there, Nathan. So when it comes to reviews for businesses, like local businesses, I mean, something that I always encourage, because I'm in the business of encouraging small businesses to write, you know, to have reviews written for them, you know, from customers. And, you know, I always try to encourage these businesses to reply to these reviews, positive and negative, because it shows that they care about the business, right? So they don't have to do every single review, but try to you know, at least reach out and reply to the reviews, because it shows up, you know, within that thread of reviews. So, I mean, I think when it comes to looking for a product or a service within your community, look for the businesses that reply to these reviews, right? Because if they don't, it's kind of either they don't care, or they don't know, or the reviews are gamed, right? They're purchased reviews. And typically you can get a sense of the reviews based on the language. If they're very generic kind of thing, oh, it was a great, awesome stay. I had it was lovely. The day was sunny, and this, you know, stuff like that. It's usually generated. They purchase the reviews. So that's just a red flag there. When it comes to product reviews for digital marketing or for online marketing, I find that it's best to never really outline, just go out and say, oh, it's a total scam, buy this instead, right? You always want to try to feature the pros as best as possible, trying to be as journalistic as possible, so that people can then, because I mean, people typically then make up their own minds, right? They've already walked into a situation in their mind that they want to own this product, but they're finding an excuse to legitimately buy the product, right? That's what I notice. Is like, so if I want to join something, if I want to buy a product, like let's say Tony Robbins' entire library of positive messages, right? I want that. I want the positive messages. I want it, but I need a reason. And I need to read other people who bought it. I need that validation, right? It's what I call the cattle mentality, right? I want to follow what other people are doing. I want to follow what other people are saying, so that I can go, yes, I've legitimized my reasoning for buying this because other people are doing so.
Oh, recent purchase of toilet paper.
Yes, yeah. So yeah, exactly. So so then if I go to read a product review of Tony Robbins' positive message library, and I can see lots of people saying it's the best thing since sliced bread, it's awesome. And bye Heidi, thanks for coming in. And then I read these, I'm going to buy it, right? But if it says, oh, it's a total scam, you got to, it's not going to help. It may be sadder, that doesn't necessarily going to make me want to buy it less, because I might even reply to the review. But, at the end of the day, when you're writing product reviews, like you're writing blog posts, reviewing specific products, try to be as subjective as possible, right? Try not to just walk in there with a negative attitude, because people have already made up their minds. So they're just finding a reason. So, if you're trying to sell them another product, you don't have to say, oh, this sucks, get this instead. You can model it where you can have it's a great accompaniment to whatever you're promoting, right? So if I'm promoting my own Jay's positive message library, I can say, you know what, Tony Robbins is absolutely awesome. The thing that I find is that they're very complex. So it creates a little bit of a deep thinker. If you're looking for something a little bit more, easier, come on over to Jay's Positive Shack, and we'll make it really simple for you. So, something like that, where you don't say, Tony Robbins sucks, Jay's better, right? So it's just a nice, easy way to get people. And that what that does, in my opinion, is that it really does build trust, right? Because you're not trying to do the old bait and switch, right? So,
Alana, I see you waving.
Yeah, it was interesting you brought up Tony Robbins, because I was thinking while you were talking about that with somebody like him, or anybody that you are familiar with, it all starts with getting their name and face in front of people in order for them to sell whatever it is they're trying to sell. So the wall kind of breaks down a little bit when you see that person or that product from that person over and over and over again. You start to become more familiar with that product, and then there's a bit of a breakdown in the wall there. So you start to trust them a little bit by thinking to yourself, okay, well, this guy must be doing really well because I see his face everywhere. So maybe he's doing something right. Let's take a look. So part of it might have something to do with that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's also to do with advertising. And if I remember correctly, if you get a product out there, you might get it out there 27 times, but the person that you want as your prospect might see it only 9 times. And by the time that they've seen it about 9 times, that would be about when they're ready to buy something. That doesn't always hold true. But I mean, in terms of Tony Robbins stuff, I bought a little bit of his material. And the wonderful thing I really do like about his stuff is that he gives an incredible amount of value in so many different ways. And I wound up writing down a lot of his stuff and transcribing different things from his videos because they've been so helpful. Mm-hmm. Even if I don't buy his stuff, like some of what Tony does, like his style doesn't match mine. So I couldn't see myself going to his events. But I do like a lot of the stuff he writes in his books. And for me, having a book on hand rather than going to an event is a much better way for me to go. So that's just my style.
On that value, what you said about value? I think I think it holds very true, Sorry.
So the value that you perceive it, but the value relates to.
I can't hear you. Hold on a second. I lost my.
Oh. So while Jay is trying to get his system going, the value seems to relate to individual need, I would think, need and or want. Like there's no value in something that you see advertised all the time if you don't need or want it.
Yeah, that's true. And that happens all the time. That's for all of us,
And that doesn't mean I don't just because I don't feel as though I need it or want it doesn't mean I don't trust them. I just don't need it.
Yeah. Well, like I said earlier, it wasn't so much about a need or a want. It just had to do with style. It's not something that appealed to me. But the other forms like books and the odd videos that I've seen that I really like, that's that's what I value, and that's what I choose to use. It's a process of what one of my teachers called discernment, not discrimination. That's a difference, but discernment is like looking at this and looking at this and going, which one, and making a decision eventually based upon a certain criteria, which only you would know.
Yes.
As to what is right for you and what isn't. And irregardless of what other people would say you should do, it's following your own inner guidance, for lack of a better description. Some would call it your intuition, whatever it is. But you know when you get to a certain point with some things that you're looking at, whether it's a yes or a no.
Sorry to
Go ahead.
So sorry, my Bluetooth was connected to my phone as well, so when my phone rang, I lost the audio, so I turned it off. Anyways, so value. So I think personally, value is all about perception, the perception of value. So value is very subjective. So if you bought one of my products, and I think Nathan really nailed it on the head there when it comes to value, right? So if you have something that's valued, or if you had bought something and you see that there's great immense value, that's your perception, right? And because what you see as value might not be what other people see as value. But so there's a really great way to give perception of value right at the inception of the purchased product. So if you purchase my course and you start the videos and I say, hey, welcome to Jay's affiliate coaching course. I'm really happy that you're here, and I have put so much value in this that you're going to be overwhelmed. Some might even say that I've over delivered in terms of the value. So I'm planting that seed in your head, right? So then you go, oh, right, oh, this is going to be great. All this stuff is going to be, magical, right? So I think, and with Tony Robbins, one of the masters of NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, and variance therein, I think he's someone that really does that. And you can actually watch. If you have any inclination of what NLP is and know what it is, and you watch him knowing that he's doing that, you can see like, oh, look, I see what he's doing there, right? I can see what he's doing, right? He's reading body language. He's like, there's a Netflix documentary called I Am Not Your Guru. Fascinating film from the perspective of marketing, right? Because the whole documentary is a promotion for him.
Right.
Big surprise.
It's an entire commercial for him where he's got a documentarist, someone who films documentaries, film this thing for him or about him, and everything is all about it, and you see this thing where he's one-on-one with these people, and you see, oh, did you see what happened there? And he touched the guy's shoulders and how they kind of went down because of like he just felt better. And so that's neuro-linguistic programming where he was seeing his body language, right? So value is perception, right? And I think value is complete perception. And I think if you were to create a course or be in a course or sign up to a course and you hear the word value in there, or of course, obviously if you over deliver, but it's all about perception. And I think that creates immense value there, is the perception.
For what it's worth, I said earlier that I was working on a major sales letter project. That project just happens to be with one of the top NLP coaches out of Australia, for what it's worth. So,
can I say something
Yes.
about value?
Yeah.
I think value is in the vision of the perceiver, and it's their problem. And if you're solving people's problems, you will be successful. Now, sometimes they don't know that you're able to solve their problem. But if you're successful, every successful company has solved people's problems. Now, the challenge is to find out what their problems are, and sometimes they don't even know. But value is in their mind as, hey, this course or whatever it is, this person's going to solve my problem. And if they perceive that, then they will buy it. Hopefully, you can solve problems. That is, to me, that's the secret. Solve people's problems and you will be successful. Dave's got his hand up.
Yeah, go ahead, Dave.
Well, I'm going to look at it value from a different perspective. In real estate, the value of a home is what a buyer is willing to pay for it. You can have an appraiser come in and tell you that the value is so much. I can do a study in what's called a CMA, and I can tell you what I believe the value is, but we could both be very wrong as to what the buyer is willing to pay. If you're in a, a tight market, the value goes up. If you're in a flooded market with a lot of homes, the value goes down. And that's just what a buyer's willing to pay. And people have a hard struggle with that in that industry. The sellers struggle with that. They have a perceived value, and most of the time it's inflated, and trying to get them to understand that the buyer is not willing to pay that price is really the key to our business.
Intrinsic value.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. You know
I gotta
what?
go, guys.
We have gone a full hour this morning. But thank you
Well,
all.
there is so much value in this webinar.
Yes, right. It has been a very interesting conversation, and I want to thank Fred for his really neat presentation that got us all rolled into this. So thank you so much, Fred. I really appreciate that. And if anybody can stay on, I will be here. But in the meantime, I just want to, before I play our outro, that I need to remind everyone that it's important to do what you love with passion. And we will see you next week. So bye for now.